Hey everybody, Argent here, and it's a nice late Friday night. So yeah, I just figured I'd come on and say hi to everybody. I know a lot of people sometimes can't catch me when I'm live streaming just because I'm different time zones and stuff, but got home from a movie, got home from TIFF actually. Yeah, I went to TIFF this year, which is kind of neat. My mother's always like, Argent, you should go to Twitch. Sorry, not Twitch. You should go to TIFF. TIFF kind of sounds a bit like Twitch, I guess. But, I don't have game capture on because I am a professional. Let's see. Okay, that is not the way it should be. There we go. It is what it is. Nothing I can do, but I digress. Let's see here. Okay. So yeah, so I went to, what's it called again? TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. For those of you who don't know, one of the biggest film festivals in the world takes place in Toronto every year. And it's TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. I just said that. But yeah, so it's a big event. You have lots of celebrities there. You have a lot of new movies that are premiered, mostly shitty art films, nothing really that interesting by and large. But I decided I'd go that are premiered just to see what was up, more or less. Sorry, this fucking Twitch ads. Sorry, I'm just let me just fix this. Yeah, Twitch is really weird. It doesn't like to change the title of your stream for some reason. So I'll change it in the menu, but then when the video starts streaming, it doesn't stream properly. Anyways, I'll probably leave in like 40 minutes for 10 minutes, then come back. I just have to pick up my sister from a bus station. So that is what it is. Andromeda, done. So I don't know if other people have ever been to a film festival. I actually have a video I'm going to put up later. I did a 15-minute long video of me playing my character, the head of the Death and Armies party, just because I've been... there's a friend of mine on Facebook who really, really hates normies. And he's been just ranting about how they're subhuman. For those of you who aren't aware, I run a page on Facebook called the Death to Normies Party, of course. And I did I don't know if you guys have ever seen that thing. It kind of became a meme. There's this Polish sniper, and the quote is, one time I was asked how it feels to kill, so how it feels to take human life. And I responded, I wouldn't know. I've only ever killed communists. Which is like the most base thing I've ever heard. But yeah, so I did a version of that, and I was like, people ask me how it feels to take a human life. And I said, I wouldn't know. I've only ever killed normies. So oh, the Death and Armies party. But yeah, I just post a bunch of stuff there. Whenever I like have the agency to. Whenever I have the agency to post there, I put up stuff. Mainly it's me putting up stuff about like sex robots, thoughts, stuff like that. And it's just me basically just talking about why 2D women are superior. But yeah, so for TIFF I did a 15-minute video of me just walking around talking about autistic shit. It's pretty funny. How's it going? Of that is fantastic. So yeah, I'll put that up later. That was a lot of fun. So the movie I saw, which I don't know if I want to do a reaction review on it or not, was called it was called 1%. Now, it despite its name, it wasn't about Occupy Wall Street or that kind of thing. It was about this biker gang in Australia, and it's kind of cool actually because the cast and the director and stuff flew in from Australia to show it. It was a pretty good movie, so it was kind of like Macbeth, but with motorcycles. So like there was the leader who got out of jail because he had been in jail for, well, I forget why. I think drug possession or something like that. And in the meantime, his kind of right-hand man had taken over, and his right-hand man was trying to modernize. He was trying to get them into legitimate business, to get them to clean money, and basically things were going pretty good, actually. So the other guy came in, and he's just a complete psychopath. He also is like a gay rapist. He has like a girlfriend, but he doesn't want to have sex with her because he just likes to fuck dudes. Because it's a power thing. So yeah, so you have this conflict between the two of them, between kind of the old school guy who's just a psychopath who rules through fear, and kind of the newer guy who's a much more sympathetic figure. And he kind of wants to just give up and leave because of how fucked things are. Because like a friend of his that he brings into the gang gets raped by the old boss. So yeah, so that stuff all happens, and then what else was there? Yeah, so that just kind of degenerates into this turf war. So I don't know, if somehow you can watch the movie, I'd recommend it. I just picked it because it was the only game. Sorry, it was the only movie that was playing that I could get tickets to. There was a bunch of other ones I like tried to get tickets to, but they were sold out. I just went to see it on a whim. If I couldn't get tickets to see a movie, I was going to go see it, because it, for whatever reason, has like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, yeah. What else was I thinking about? Okay, I might as well talk about this. I didn't want to put in the stream title because this group of people would fucking try to dox me, and they've come after me before. Well, I don't know. It's not fair to say they've come after me. I don't know if anybody's heard. I don't want to do a dedicated stream, not because I'm afraid, not because I wouldn't talk about it, but just because I'm scared of them given the shit they've been implicated in. I don't know if anybody's heard about the SOK leaks. Like a bunch of just stuff came out. Like a lot of people who used to be involved, it turns out they were involved with all this shady shit. They were doxing people. They were spying on people. They recorded all these conversations. They were blackmailing people with recorded conversations. There's just all this shady shit. Like they would vote to kick people out of the community. Was like one of the weird ones I heard. And I mean, I'm not even, because I don't want to get into it, because every time I would talk about this, someone would get angry at me. So I'm not going to talk about my personal experiences. But I think for me, the time I really started to wonder like what was going on with the SOK was during the whole Sammy Samosa debate. And kind of the funny thing is, everything Sammy Samosa was saying was kind of right. Because even though he's completely retarded. But like one of Sammy Samosa's big points was that they were trying to take Phil down. And that the entire reason their like Illuminati-esque group existed was to try to take Phil down. And Fred was like, no, we weren't trying to take Phil down. This has nothing to do with taking Phil down. This is a community of friends. And it's like, but it's obviously trying to take Phil down. That's the reason why their group was founded. It's dishonest to say that's not the reason, but they've just decided that, yeah, they said that. So yeah, all this other shit came out. So Tevin, who I love, by the way, and I watch all his videos, Tevin's a great guy. He's just really chill, I think. He takes a really chill approach to DSP compared to a lot of people who are just a lot more, I don't know how you want to put it. They get triggering about it. Didn't the SOK have a beef with DSP? Well, that's why the SOK was founded. The SOK was founded specifically to take down DSP. And what kind of had happened was initially there was the two groups. There was the Kojima World Order and the Sons of Kojima. And the Kojima World Order took the perspective that their job was just to make fun of DSP. All they were going to do was just mock him and just expose his bullshit. And the SOK kind of took a more active one, like trolling him. So I think something I had said that people got angry at about me for talking about was that, yeah, I like Tevin a lot. Tevin's a good guy. Tevin's a good man. But what was I thinking about? What was I thinking about again? But, what was it? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, so they took the... so it turns out that they were behind the copyright strikes that DSP did. Even though they've been saying for years that, like... I think I have to get to that, but apparently they were, like, actively trying to fuck him over IRL. Which I think everybody's known for a long time. And, yeah. Didn't the SOK also have a beef with DSP when they got angry at you? Yeah, basically, like, one of their kind of codes is that no one can make money off of DSP, and they get super triggered if everyone does. I think his name was, like, Arnads and, like, Dipshit Phil. I think it was Arnads, who's now Dipshit Phil, from what I think. But, I was trying to think of how to describe it. But occasionally there's people... But Cam Wars millionaires from doing the same thing. What's with the double standard? The thing is that... And, like, I know I make fun of DSP and I do a lot of videos on him. But I just more do it out of entertainment. Like, I don't hate DSP. I don't really, like, want him to fail. I just find him, like, as a good example of how not to live your life. I did a video a while back with called DSP as the embodiment of millennials as the lost generation. Because I just think in general you can learn a lot about like not how to not live your life. Look at his mistakes. I think he's really emblematic about a lot of problems that people our age have. I mean, DSP is... People have gotten angry at me for calling him a millennial because people get super triggered over bullshit. He was born in, like, the last year of, like, being a millennial. It's not even really important, to be perfectly honest, because, I mean, he's close enough to being a millennial. He's part of that whole culture. That kind of, like, 90s, 80s, early 2000s kind of neat culture. I always call him a professional neat. But yeah, so it turns out SOK was involved in just all this shady shit. They doxed people. They were recording IP addresses. I haven't like gone through it all, but I just find the whole thing really interesting. I don't know if I'll have to edit this out, but yeah, so they actively like went after anyone who criticized them, but they have this code that people can't make money off of DSP. And I remember when I was dealing with them, Fred got really triggered that I had monetized the videos I did on DSP. In fact, to a large extent, that's why I do videos on DSP. Well, I do them for like a couple of reasons. A, as I said, I've learned a lot about life from DSP. I know that sounds weird, and I think I've taught people a lot about life from DSP. I don't think many people hate DSP. They're just tired of him and angered at how he wasted his chance. Yeah, but the SOK actually hates DSP. There is a group of people who, I don't know if, who just, like, just enjoy his suffering, and they will come up with excuses for this. Like, one of the things that they will say, and I've dealt with this, is that DSP is like a racist, he's homophobic, he's xenophobic, he's like this evil like man. And because of some mildly un-PC stuff that he said a couple of years ago, he deserves to basically live and die in the street. Like, he deserves to get kicked out of his full adult house, live in the streets, and die. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. That's more or less what I've heard people talk about. And yeah, it's sick. It's really disgusting. Because as I said to like one person I was arguing with, if you think DSP is a hardcore racist, you live an extremely sheltered life. Like, you obviously have never been on the internet. With all the stuff from Poll, even stuff like I say, with like the modern alt-right, with even just normal apolitical people who do stuff on Encyclopedia Dramatica and stuff. That was another big thing that came out of the leaks, was Fred Fox and a couple other people got super triggered by the fact that they did an Encyclopedia Dramatica page about them. If you haven't read the Sons of Kojima ED page, it's hilarious. It's like some of the funniest shit I've ever seen. ED is often very brutally accurate. It's accurate in a very douchey way, but it very often is. So yeah, so that's kind of some of the stuff that's happened. I didn't want to make a dedicated video about it, not because I couldn't, but because I'm just kind of afraid to do a video and put their name in the title. But I fucking digress. So with regards to the hurricane, I think it's important to keep in mind that there's never been another hurricane in history. This is the first hurricane ever, and it was caused by global warming. Global warming was the cause of the hurricane. There was never one before, and if we ended... What the fuck is this? This looks like the boss fight from The Fury. No, don't think about Metal Gear Solid 3. They won't do much, if anything. No, but they've like doxed people and stuff like that. They've looked up people's like IPs. I don't know. What was I thinking about again? Yeah, so there's all kind of that interesting stuff. So I don't know if there's much else I can say about TIFF. What other stuff has kind of been happening lately in the world? Yes, there's the hurricane, which is caused by global warming. There weren't storms ever. The plague of Justinian was the plague of Justinian was caused by the Byzantines. The earthquake of Justinian was caused by the Byzantines fracking for oil to make Greek fire. That was the cause of it. Because fracking is what caused the tsunami and what causes earthquakes. And global warming, yeah. I mean, as I've said, I think it's... No, they don't have assassins, but I don't want to get doxxed. Doxing people like fucking ruins their lives. It's a very powerful weapon. Like, even people who don't do shit like I do and don't do like white nationalist shit, to be honest, like those, like, you can get your life ruined because people are just douchebags on the internet. And like a lot of normies, did you invent what or hear what somewhere? Okay, I'm going to post a link in the chat to the video Tevin C did about this. Tevin C did like a 2.5 hour video where he looked at all of the leaks and just talked about them. Because they were like trashing him in some of their stuff, so yeah. me see here. Where's Tevin C? Tevin C is actually the reason I started to do videos about DSP. Just because, I don't know, I just like him. He's just a really chill dude. He's a cool guy. I don't really know what else to say about him other than... Then he's, yeah, then I like him a lot. There we go. If you want to check it out and what I'm referring to, I'm just talking about that.
Nothing like outrunning death. Or reactivating a huge mysterious vault. Nice going.
Atmosphere
This dialogue, though.
Recovering lost console activity.
Was that the Helios cluster? Yeah. There we are. That's Helios.
Like, the dialogue in this game is literally just them talking. Like, they don't have conversations, they just prattle on. Oh, excuse me.
But why is there a whole network of them? What's all this for? This tech can create observers from nowhere or ravage a whole planet.
Oh my god, look at that.
What we've seen. The bots.
Look at those lighting effects on her face. Look at the glowing teeth.
For a council team that was seeing some ice planet atmosphere trying to melt the ice caps to help it support life.
That first processor we saw was making things worse, but maybe it malfunctioned.
Is that what these builders were trying to do? Make worlds habitable? Even terraform a whole cluster? Hey, look there. That's different. Maybe it's active? We've got to go see. Sam?
Extrapolating. These coordinates lie beyond the space.
This might be the worst dialogue I've ever seen.
Working on our charts. We need more to go on. Let's head up to the surface. Could use some fresh air.
What? Fresh air? But this planet has a toxic atmosphere, doesn't? I don't fucking know. It doesn't make any sense. It's just... Ugh. Like I said, I'm probably going to have to go in like 20 minutes to pick my sister up. She was working late tonight, so yeah. How's your mental health been doing as late? Well, I sound pretty manic at the moment, don't I? 'Cause it's like 12 o'clock and I'm like super chipper and wired.
If this effect is representative, Pathfinder, air and moisture patterns will show noticeable improvement. Eos could support an outpost.
A foothold. That's all we need.
But no, my mental health has been fairly bad lately. It's...
Could be the key to our survival.
The time you really have to worry is not really when you're depressive.
Let's go slow.
It's...
We've got a lead. Sam marked it on the charts.
It's when you...
Who knows what we'll find there.
When you're kind of manic. Actually, it's I don't know if anyone's ever heard the concept of a mixed state. But when you're cycling from depression to mania and mania depression, you have a state where you are both manic and depressive at the same time, which is really dangerous because you have it's what's known as dysphoric mania. So you're hyper, you got all this energy, you're like super active, but you have this ultra negative worldview. Because what normally happens is when you're depressed, the amount of damage you can do to yourself is somewhat limited, because you're depressed, you're low energy. Adam K, I just I don't know, sorry, I don't want to go into it again, but if you go back, I spent like the last half hour talking about it just before this. Yeah, Adam, if you look in the description, I posted that actually, the Tevin C video. So yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to be mean or say you're not caught up or anything. I just I did talk about it earlier. Just talking about some other stuff at the moment. Maybe I'll go back to it in a minute or two. But yeah, so when you're in between mania and depression, you have dysphoric mania, and that's like really where you have to worry, because normally, like when you're really depressed, you have low agency. You don't really have the energy to kind of ruin your life. like you aren't like super aggressive. But what tends to happen is a lot of the time when you have like super villains who, I'm trying to think of it. A lot of the time you have like super villains who are like laughing but are just completely like sadistic or evil. That's kind of what dysphoric mania is. When I wasn't on medication, and actually I was just taking, if you take an antidepressant when you're bipolar without taking a mood stabilizer, it destabilizes you and makes you go fucking crazy because you start rapid cycling. What it would be like is I just have these like megalomaniacal thoughts about like burning the world, just destroying everything, that kind of thing. Humanity is corrupt, it must be controlled, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how dysphoric mania works. It's not very pleasant. We can say that for certain, but yeah. So Adam, briefly my opinion on the SOK. I'm not surprised. It is. I'm kind of glad because, like, I guess it doesn't really matter. At one point, Fred like challenged me to a debate. Argent, did you get anything good from the Fan Expo or just the Eevee poster? I bought a grab bag because I was stupid and it just had basically shitty stuff in it. And that was a waste of money, so I didn't really buy that much else. I'm a hypochondriac who suffers from anxiety, nausea. What would you recommend? Have you been to therapy at all? Just
Well, what do you
out of
know?
curiosity.
The Outpost Research Center is still intact.
I think what I've said in the past is, yeah, I have some other posters. If people want me to do like a shitty video and like show them off, I can. There's a book I haven't looked at yet, which was like a horror book where the second coming of Jesus, where it's like you've been drinking his blood for 2,000 years, now he's back, or something like that. So what was I talking about? I haven't done a mental health video in a while just because, I don't know, I can do more if people want. One of the reasons I started like doing YouTube was to talk about mental health issues, because I just felt, from my perspective, not enough people are just open about them. And like, I like to think I'm pretty open about it, and I don't really talk about it in like a super depressing way necessarily. But no, I think it's important to talk about it. I do think there is a stigma associated with mental illness, and I don't mean that like as a liberal. I think there actually is one. I think a lot of cases people don't get the help they need, and there does. I mean, I'm not a leftist, but I am Catholic, and people have a right to be treated with dignity by and large. And I think oftentimes people need to be more understanding of people with mental illness. It's not like one of those like identity, like we was Kangs and people are mean to us. It's not like, oh, I'm a woman, hear me roar, that kind of thing. It's people who often have very like legitimate problems. It's like how I don't mind reasonable accommodations for people with disabilities as long as they're not douchey about it. I mean, it's not an excuse to act like a complete douchebag and commit crimes or anything. But I do think you should try to be understanding to people with mental illnesses. That's not to say there is a lot of responsibility associated with having a what was I saying again? Like, you have responsibilities. Like, if you know that certain things are going to freak you out, or you're like, let's say you're in like a super depressed mood, or you're going through a period of rage or something, then maybe that's a good time to avoid people. Like if you think you're going to do something really bad, I don't know, just because you're going to freak out and start yelling at people or that kind of thing. I do think you have a responsibility to kind of set rules for yourself, to try to limit the harm you cause to other people. And I do think you have to just understand that you have like a responsibility, like to get your job done, to stuff like that. But at the same time, I think people should need to try to be understanding. I mean, they don't have to bend over backwards. But it was actually a speaker who came into my school when I was younger, and they said it's okay to have cancer, it's not okay to have clinical depression. And that's true. I mean, if you have cancer, you're kind of lionized almost. I'm not trying to take anything away from people with cancer. I'm just trying to make a point that, like, that's okay. That you are deserving of sympathy and respect. But if you're schizophrenic, like you see stuff that's not there, if you're depressed, if you have severe anxiety, you're kind of just told to suck it up. And I do think there is that stigma. Radu says, I think the problem with mental illness is the lack of a proper education. Yeah, I mean, it's real issues. I mean, there's a tendency, I think, in these circles to just dismiss psychiatry and just say, oh, they're all just shills, etc. And there's a lot of shady shit that goes on in psychiatry. There's a lot of shady shit that goes on in a lot of things. In a lot of cases, though, with proper medication and therapy, there's people who wouldn't be able to live like a normal productive life who are able to, or who are prevented from killing themselves, or that kind of thing. And I mean, there's all kinds of aspects of dealing with mental health. Lifestyle's one, medication's one. There's certain exercises you can do that help out. Maybe I'll talk about CBT at some point. Yeah, Gavin, I don't really know what to tell you. That's kind of a separate issue. I'm not too familiar with that sort of thing, but it's rough, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's difficult. I think what you just have to try to do, the best advice I can give you, is to just try not to blame yourself. And I know that's very difficult, but maybe coming from me instead of yourself, it's easier. But there's a tendency, if you have mental illness, if you have really low self-esteem, if you're just, like, if you hate yourself, then you feel that the way you feel is your fault. That it's because you're weak, it's because of a moral failing, that your anxiety is just because you're a pussy or something. And there's aspects of that maybe, but by and large, in a lot of cases, it's you have to view it as an illness that needs to be treated. Like if you have a heart defect, if you have cancer, etc. And when you get into a guilty state about it, it just makes everything worse, and you get into like a feedback loop because you feel guilty about the mental health issues, and that makes it worse. Because you're depressed because you think you're worthless, and then you become more worthless because you're depressed from being worthless, and it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on. So I guess what I'd recommend is, and this is just my general advice, make sure if you think you have a mental health issue, find a doctor you trust. Hopefully your family doctor is someone you can trust. If you can't trust them, but you think go to somebody who you think who might be able to help you. Like, talk to your parents if you think your parents will help you get support. If there's a counselor, if there's a teacher, hopefully you trust your family doctor, and go to them and say, look, I think I have these issues. I've thought about them. This isn't just me acting out. This isn't just a phase. This is a real problem. And I think that's important. Number two, I think you should try to get educated about it. Try to understand what the symptoms are. It's very important for mental illness that you be an active participant. I'm not saying don't listen to your doctor. I'm just saying it's your treatment is more than twice effective if you're involved in it. If you make sure you know about your medication, if you look into the different causes, if you look into different types of therapies, if you look into all that stuff, you have to be an active part of your treatment. And the more active you are, the more you work with your doctor as a team, the better it is. I work very closely. I'm blessed with a really good doctor. He's a great man, and he actually compliments me a lot for being very just diligent, taking my medication, of telling him when I think something's wrong, and just committed to the process. And he says that's massively helped. So be aware, be critical, make sure you ask questions. I'm not saying be combative with your doctor, but you have a right to know things and you have a right to understand things. And that kind of thing. So, yeah. I think that's some of my advice. You have to understand, in some cases, your mental illness is more situational or something like that. Like, if you're, like, a family member dies, like your dog dies, your father dies, that kind of thing, then... And you're depressed from that, that's situational. You may only need meds for a short period of time. It's understandable that you're depressed. You can probably work through that with some therapy. Now, if therapy isn't really like affordable, there's sometimes therapy groups, sometimes churches offer that kind of thing. I personally find group therapy to be the most helpful, that kind of thing. So I find group therapy really helpful. The thing you have to understand about mental illness is the isolation is probably the worst part of it. You're like, I'm a loser, I'm alone in having these problems. And if you go to a group and you hear all these other people expressing the exact same concerns you have, then you just feel a lot less lonely. You feel like, I'm not a freak, I'm not a loser. I have problems that other people have. And I think that that's very important to just kind of keep in mind. Let's see here. I feel like if I was to see a doctor, I might be barred from certain jobs. I don't know, there's doctor-patient confidentiality. The only major job I know of that bars you, I'm not sure how it is in America, but the Army in Canada bars you from serving in it if you have certain mental health issues, which, to be fair, I think is a good thing, because maybe you probably shouldn't be letting some of these people near guns. Like, I shouldn't be, I mean, not that I shouldn't own guns, but I don't think I could survive the stresses of Army life. And there's nothing wrong with that. People are made for different things. I can probably survive some stresses that other people can't. And it might suck if you want that career, but it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. All you can do is digress. But if you have gender dysphoria, that's fine, apparently. Yeah, those are the fuckers they should really be worried about. See, I feel really bad for those people. What was I thinking? Because those people have, like, severe problems, and they really need someone to help them out, to be like, look, dude, you have problems. I'm here for you. I'm here to let you know that, like, I'm going to help you to get the support that you need. But people don't do that because our society is not just in the military, not normal wage cucking. Yeah, I've never been asked about. If anything, you get you can get affirmative action as, like, a white male if you have a mental illness. But if you have a mental illness and you can perform your job properly, or you can perform your job with reasonable accommodation, that shouldn't hurt your career prospects at all. If there's certain jobs you can't do because you have super anxiety, then that's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way it is. People can't do jobs because they have physical disabilities. They can't do jobs because they aren't smart enough. That kind of thing. So I'm sorry, people. I have to go get my sister. I'll try to stream when I get back. Just consider this a hiatus. I'll be back in like 15 minutes. Ooh.